Okay, all books should be open to page 205. Nate, will you close the door, please? We are going to go over your questions that you answered yesterday from lesson 1. We're going to discuss lesson 1. We're going to do 2 foldables over lesson 1, okay? Most of lesson 1 was what? Water cycle. Which is that new information or is it review? Review, okay? A lot of the questions when we did Water Jeopardy at Resource Day or Earth Day, a lot of those questions were from this chapter and you already knew a lot of the answers, okay? So that told us before we even got to this that you already had a lot of background knowledge in it. So in your book, lesson 1 questions, question number 1 in your book was on page 205. Okay, it said use the graphic organizer to sequence the events described above. If you missed these, add to yours, or if you just had part of it right, add to it to fix it. If you missed it, fix it completely. Okay, number 1 in the text, it said a water particle starts in a plant, a river, or an ocean, or a big body of water. Okay, so the first step is that a water particle starts out in a plant, a river, or an ocean is what the book actually said.
Which one are we on?
Number 1. Hold on, did you do this yesterday? Why not? Wasn't it on that sheet that Miss Beer brought you? Okay, then after the water particle starts in a plant, a river, or body of water, the water particle becomes water or water vapor. What it said in the text. So it's water, then it turns to water vapor. And then finally, the water particle returns to the earth as rain. Okay, that's how the text stated it. Number 2, it shows the man out in the cold, and it says, moisture has frozen on this man's beard. Where might the moisture have come from? What did you think, Bryce?
The moisture on his beard might come from the snow and the air.
Okay, possibly. Who has a different theory? Brady?
The water vapor will freeze onto his beard.
Where's the water vapor coming from? His breath. Okay? When he breathes out, is there moisture coming out of his mouth? Yes. Moisture that when it hits cold air is turning from water vapor, which is hot, and it is freezing, so it is sticking to his throat, and then it's like frozen on his beard. Okay? So in words that make a little more sense. So this is very technical. This was the book answer, okay? Very technical answer. Water evaporates from the man's lungs. You can say his breath comes out of his mouth, okay? Breath comes out and freezes. Comes out of his mouth as water vapor when he breathes. In the cold air, the water condenses and freezes. So you can say that the man breathes out water vapor and it freezes due to the cold temperatures or something like that. Makes it a lot less technical. If it is currently snowing, could that precipitation also stick to his beard and his hair? Yes, but it's hard to tell if it's currently snowing from that picture. Questions on that one? Does that make sense? Okay, number 3, we just had to fill in the blanks. So this one was a diagram. I'm going to try and just draw it in this box. We are going to start where we see water blank from the ocean, lakes, and puddles. What does water do from the ocean, lakes, and puddles? This is on page 206. Sadie? Evaporates. So that was about right here. I'm going to try and write it in about the right spot. So water evaporates from the ocean, lakes, and puddles. Then it went up and it said some water vapor rises and blanks to form clouds. Some water vapor turns into frost or dew. Frost and dew often form in the morning and evaporate soon after sunrise. Kendall? Condenses. Okay, then we're going to have to look over on the other page to get the rest of the diagram. It looks like this is showing going up into the mountains, and it says very slowly snow and ice turn into water vapor by sublimation. That's one we don't talk about a whole lot. But then there's other ones that are kind of coming down here. And it says raindrops and snowflakes fall to earth. Most blank falls on the ocean. Lori? Precipitation. Why do you think that most precipitation falls on the ocean? Why does that make sense? Harper?
Because most of the water evaporates from the ocean?
No? Bryce?
75% of the Earth has oceans on it.
Because most of the earth is covered by ocean. So it makes sense that most of the precipitation falls back into the ocean. Okay, precipitation. Were there any other we had to fill in? No. The other ones it talked about runoff. It says runoff is water that flows off of the land into streams, rivers, lakes, and oceans. Groundwater slowly moves into rivers, lakes, and oceans. Some rain or melted snow soaks into the ground and becomes groundwater. I read those two backwards. So when it rains outside, some of it might run off into like the drainage ditch, which could flow to like a creek, which could flow to a river. That's runoff. Some of it soaks down under the ground and becomes groundwater. Now we have to go backwards, right, to number 4. Number 4 was at the top of page 206. It said, look at the diagram below. Where do you think the water cycle begins? Where do you think the water cycle begins? Jude, what do you think?
I put there is no beginning or end.
There is no beginning or end. He is correct. There is no beginning or end. Water changes form but does not leave the cycle. Okay, here's number 4. I can make it bigger. There is no beginning or end to the water cycle, so make sure you have that. There is no beginning or end. Water changes form, but it does not leave the cycle. Okay, it just changes how it appears in the cycle. Okay, questions on those ones? It's just a continuous cycle. Number 5, page 207. How might pesticides and fertilizers on land become a problem in an ocean ecosystem? A lot of you yesterday had questions about what those are. First, what are fertilizers? A lot of us understand fertilizers more than pesticides. Abby, what are fertilizers? Brant, what are fertilizers?
Stuff that gives the ground or plants food.
So it's something that we put on plants in order to make them grow faster, healthier, quicker, better, grow better, okay? What are pesticides? Kendall?
Like, what purpose is to spray the crop?
What's the purpose of spraying their crops? To kill or keep away the bugs, okay? So they're essentially chemicals, fertilizers and, Max, you with me? Fertilizers and pesticides are some form of chemicals or things that they use to either make the plants grow or to keep the insects and bugs off of the plants. So the question is, how might those two things on land become a problem in the ocean? Because we don't spray pesticides in the ocean, we spray them on land plants. Brady?
It will affect like the fish and stuff.
Okay, but how does it get there? You guys said, a lot of people when they were questioning were talking about how it affects the ocean life. And we all agree that chemicals in the ocean are good or bad? Bad. But how do they become a problem in the ocean is the question. Bryce.
Can pollute the water and kill the sea life.
But that's the problem. But how do they become a problem? Because they are used on land. Like I can spray them on my field in southern Illinois, and they could end up in the Gulf of Mexico, in the ocean, hurting the animals.
The wind brings it there?
Not necessarily, okay? The wind probably won't blow. As I'm spraying my pesticide, I agree there will be some overspray, just kind of like spray paint. Okay, when you're spray painting something, is there a little bit of overspray? Okay, when you're spraying crops, I agree there's going to be a little bit of overspray. But if I'm spray painting something, will it show up in Highland? Probably not. Okay, so do you think the pesticides, the wind will blow them all the way to the Gulf of Mexico? Nope. Sadie?
It could be a problem because if it rains, the fertilizer could get in the water and eventually pollute the oceans.
Okay, so it gets into the water cycle. It can run off into rivers. Okay, it could run off into rivers, which rivers all flow into oceans. Could it? That's what the book says, is they may be carried by rivers and streams into the ocean. Okay? I don't know if when the water cycle, like when it condenses up into the clouds, like evaporates, when water evaporates up into the clouds, I don't know if if the pesticide would kind of stay in that water. So then when it cycles through and rains, it rains somewhere else and that rain is polluted. I don't know if that's the case or not. Okay, but it can definitely run off into rivers which flow into the oceans, so it affects the ecosystem in the rivers and the oceans, and really anything along the way. Number 5, that was number 5. Oh, let's see what there you go. They may be carried by rivers and streams to the ocean. Number 6 is on page 208. 6, you were just supposed to circle and underline. The sun has a major effect on the water cycle, is what you should have circled. That was the first sentence in the first paragraph. Really, the rest of that paragraph are 2 details. Number 7. Read and complete the captions in the diagram above. Circle part of the diagram that shows water vapor turning into a liquid. So, where in the picture do we see water vapor turning into liquid water? Maya. So that one is actually showing precipitation because the rain is falling down. So how does that change your answer? It's in both pictures. That's why it's kind of confusing. Where does the water turn back into water? In the clouds. So really, they have circled the picture of the cloud all by itself. So Maya said the cloud with the rain coming out, that's supposed to represent the precipitation, the rain coming down from the cloud. They actually have just the cloud over to the left all by itself. So the cloud is where the water turns from water vapor back into water. But again, in the picture, that one on the far right is kind of showing the rain coming down. So that's showing precipitation. And then there was one little spot that we were supposed to fill in. It says frozen water blank energy from the sun as it melts. Does it absorb or lose energy? Absorbs. It absorbs the energy. So that was the fill in the blank at the top of page 208. Okay, last two questions, 8 and 9. Number 8 said, there is usually more water vapor in the air in the summer than in the winter. What could be the reason? Harper, what do you have?
The energy from the sun in the summer is stronger than in the winter, and the sun is warmer in the summer.
Okay, yeah, so kind of the same thing. It's hotter in the summer, more sun in the summer. More water evaporates into the air and less water condenses into drops. So it's hotter, which makes more evaporation. So that's the water going from where to where? From the ground up to the clouds. So there's more evaporation going on because of the hot sun, which creates the humidity, kind of the moisture in the air. Lori, what happens to your hair when it's humid? It gets puffy and extra curly. I have that same hair, kind of frizzy. Max, why does your hair get puffy when it's humid? Does anybody know why? If you have naturally curly hair, your hair gets puffy and curly when it's humid? It's not sweat. Parker? It's moisture. It's like getting your hair damp without putting your head under a faucet. So the moisture in the air is creating moisture in your hair, which typically moisture is what causes your curls to become curly. Number 9. Think about what you learned in this lesson. How does water move through the environment? You could have said really anything about the water cycle here. Okay, the book put, as water falls to earth, as rain and snow, it flows to rivers and streams. As water, I think I'm missing some words there. Nope. As water vapor, it forms clouds and is carried by the wind. You could have said anything about the water cycle and been correct there. You could have said evaporation, arrow, condensation, arrow, precipitation. Questions on that? Okay, now we're going to add a lot more details just like we always do. What I need you to do next, pause this real quick. Okay, so you have 2 different foldables in front of you that we're going to use to kind of sum up lesson 1. Harper, Haley. First thing we're going to do is label this picture with the different parts of the water cycle. So who knows anything about this picture? Something that we can add to it that gives us a little bit of information about the water cycle. Bryce, tell me anything.
The arrows going up to the sun is evaporation.
Okay, the arrows going up to the sun is showing evaporation. So let's write evaporation. Right there, he is correct. Does anybody know, and this isn't even on this foldable, does anybody know what we can call the ocean in the water cycle?
Evaporation?
No, evaporation is the water going up into the sky.
What's condensation?
We're getting there. Okay, we'll come back to that because we're going to label the ocean something because it has a name also. Who can tell me another piece? Reese?
Is it the arrows going to from the sun to the cloud and then to the other cloud is condensation?
Okay, so the cloud itself is where the condensation forms. So let's label this condensation. Now, what has to happen for evaporation to occur? Let's take a step backwards. What has to happen for this ocean to evaporate? Harper?
The sun has to give it.
There has to be heat. The temperature must increase for evaporation to occur. So the sun is heat. So let's go ahead and write that sun represents heat. because without that heat, that evaporation cannot occur. So now let's talk about for the evaporation to turn to condensation, what must happen? Brady?
I was just thinking that maybe the ocean is runoff.
It's not runoff. It runs off into the ocean. And it's almost so easy, it's hard. When I tell you what it is, you're like, well, that makes sense, but I never would have guessed that. Sadie?
Water source?
No. Well, let's talk about this. What could this arrow represent? What has to happen between the evaporation stage and the condensation stage?
Water vapor.
This is water vapor.
It loses its energy.
Which means what?
I don't know.
Kendall?
It loses like the float or the salt in it?
No. It has to heat up to evaporate. What does it have to do to condensate? Cool down. This is where it cools. Okay, it has to cool to go from the ocean to the evaporation stage. It has to heat up, and then to condensate, it has to cool down. Brant?
The water coming down from the clouds is precipitation.
Yep, this one is showing precipitation. Now, it's raining on land, and then it's coming over to the ocean.
Is it ocean?
Go ahead, Sadie.
Like the air going to the ocean?
From the land to the ocean is runoff. Yes, this is runoff. Good job. The other one's, Harper, you know the last one?
The one with the trees is evaporation.
No.
No.
It's actually called something else. When it goes directly from plants from the sun, or when it heats up plants, it's called transpiration. But that's one, transpiration. That's one that isn't in our book, but since it's on this foldable, we'll go ahead and label it. Large bodies of water is a collection of water.
What's the other arrow going from condensation and precipitation?
It's just showing the,
Collection.
there's nothing that happens there because it's cooled off. It just gets so heavy it falls. So there's nothing we need there. Okay, so that's kind of a visual of the water cycle. That's probably what you're most familiar with. Now we have a second foldable where we're going to break it into the science behind the water cycle. Okay, we're not cutting or gluing anything now. We're just going to work on getting it filled in. Does everybody have this? Yeah. Okay, so now pull this one to the top. Flip your paper over to the back side, and you will see this. Now, when it's all folded up, what should all of those arrows be in the shape of? Yeah, it'll be like a circle, okay? It looks funky now because of it's a foldable, which means those outside flaps will fold in. So find the one that says precipitation, and we're just going to kind of label it to make it more visually appealing. I'm going to pause this video real quick. I want you to grab, you'll need a pencil, a regular pencil, and then like a blue, and let's do like a blue or a purple crayon, pen, colored pencil. I'm giving you about 30 seconds to get what you need. Okay, with the blue or the purple colored pencil, whatever you have. Precipitation. What is precipitation? Right, Grant.
When rain gets heavy and it falls.
So, rain is precipitation. Let's draw some raindrops on our precipitation flap. Okay, what else is included in precipitation that I could try and draw? What else? What else is precipitation? Harper?
Hail.
Hail or snow. It's hard to draw hail. It would look like rain. So let's just draw some snowflakes. Just draw an X, draw a line through the center and dot the edges. That's a basic snowflake. Okay, so precipitation, rain, snow, hail, sleet, anything, any form of ice falling from the sky to the earth is precipitation. Yes. What can I draw for condensation? Parker?
Maybe
A cloud. So just use your regular pencil. Just use your regular pencil. I don't have gray, I just have black. Draw a cloud in the condensation flap. That's a beautiful cloud. If you want, you can shade it in with your pencil. I can't shade in because I don't have a gray. We'll go down from there. Evaporation. Why is it hard to show evaporation?
because there's not much you can really show.
Yeah, we don't really see it. So let's just show some squiggly lines pointing up. What is the only one left? Collection. What did you just learn about collection, Reese?
It's like the ocean.
Large bodies of water. So let's draw, and you can just shade a whole section in blue. Just doesn't have to be anything fancy. But then I would take like a darker thing and just show some lines. And then in the middle, because this is what you will need later on when we do this, is write glue here. When we glue this in our notebook, that's where we will put glue, is in that middle white section that doesn't have anything. Once we get it all folded up, we will put glue on that side. Okay?
Oh, it's flat.
Now let's flip it to the other side. Should look like this. Condensation. We're going to have 3 bullet points under condensation. We're talking about the science behind it. We're not talking about the condensation is the cloud. What is actually happening in that phase? Harper.
The water is cooling down.
Okay, so the temperature is
Dropping.
decreasing. I agree. So under condensation, the temp, yep, this is with your regular pencil, is, and let's just draw a down arrow since these aren't very big foldables. The temperature is decreasing for condensation to occur. What is the state of water in the condensation, or what's it changing from? What to what? Kendall? Liquid to a gas. Hold on, think about that. Gas to a liquid. So it is, it's gas turning to a liquid. Try and write small, I know, because here's the precipitation line, so kind of imagine like a line right down the center. I'm a little off center on mine. Okay, but that's kind of where, because these flaps will fold in. One more thing. So it's a gas to a liquid. What is our gas? What is our liquid?
Our gas is the water vapor, liquid is the water.
Yeah, so it's a gas turning to a liquid, but more specifically, it is water vapor turning into what?
H2O.
Water. Yep. So the temperature is decreasing for condensation to occur. It's a gas turning into a liquid, but more specifically, it's water vapor turning back into water.
Are we having a chapter test on this one?
We haven't decided yet. It depends how far we get. Okay, for precipitation, there's not a whole lot to say, so we're just going to say, give its definition. Precipitation is when water falls from the clouds to the earth. It's when there's too much of it up there. Yeah, it kind of forms and falls down. Some examples we've already talked about. We drew two of them. We drew rain and snow. But we also said sleet / hail are forms of precipitation. So we're just kind of recapping everything we've already talked about today. Bryce, do you have a question?
Isn't the whole cloud just water, and then when it gets heavy, it'll just fall?
Yep. Okay, let's go down to evaporation. With evaporation, we're going to have 3 bullet points, just like we did with condensation. So let's kind of follow those ones to see if we can figure out what we need to write. So for condensation, we said the temperature is decreasing. For something to evaporate, what do we know about temperature? Maya? Yeah, the temperature should be increasing or has to be increasing. So the temperature is rising. For condensation, we said it is a gas turning to a liquid. What is evaporation, Haley?
Liquid to gas.
Liquid to gas, because it's in a collection of water somewhere and it's rising up into water vapor. So it is a liquid to gas change. Specifically, it's just the opposite of that. It is water to water vapor.
It's the complete opposite.
Yep. You are correct. Stuck here. Collection. We're just going to fill in the blanks here. I tried to lead you. Precipitation falls to the earth, and what does it do when it falls to the earth? It collects. Okay, it collects in puddles, it collects in rivers, it collects in oceans. Most falls into bodies of water like oceans. I'm going to go ahead and add lakes too. Oceans and lakes. Some is absorbed and becomes, nope, it's absorbed into the ground and becomes groundwater. If it is not absorbed into the ground, it usually turns into, what is runoff?
Water falls into the ocean.
So it's water that flows off of land and into streams, rivers, lakes, and oceans. Okay, everybody listen carefully. When you are done writing that, we are not going to do anything else with our foldables today. You do not have to cut them. You do not have to glue them. You do not have to do anything else with them. Put them in your science folder until tomorrow. We will take care of them. Your homework for tonight is to do what? Not chapter 2. Lesson 2. Brady, you have your book open, Brady. Can you tell me what pages are lesson 2?
210.
So 211, I think, is probably where it starts.
Yeah. 211 to 215.
Okay, 211 to 215. You do not have to answer any of the questions. We just want you to have an understanding of lesson 2 before you come to class tomorrow. Sadie.
Do we read My Planet Diary?
Yes. Yep, but if there's any like math and science, you don't have to read that part. Okay? Once you have that down, you guys may go ahead and head to RTI. Need your Chromebooks for RTI. Hey, Finley, how much more do you need? Good. How close are you, Dane? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it because I can't stop recording until I get rid of that.